Thanks for tuning in. I'm Nate Quinnell, superintendent here in East Hartford, and I'm so happy that you turned in From the Classroom. From the Classroom, as you know, is a show that we shoot on a monthly basis where we try to bring some of the great things going on in East Hartford Public Schools. And today, we're in for a treat. Today, we've invited on the show Miss Mary Bieler, who is the East Hartford Public Schools Teacher of the Year, and certainly right from the 9th grade classrooms at East Hartford High School. So, Mary, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Really glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So the last time we were together, we were shooting a convocation video that went out to the entire staff, and we had cameras going on, and I got a chance, obviously, to watch it back when we played it, and I was really inspired by that message. So thanks for taking the time, and thanks for being willing to come back.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm excited.
Well, it's good to have you. So, in East Hartford, obviously, you don't need an introduction, and certainly at East Hartford High School, you've been a big part of that community. But here on From the Classroom, you're a newcomer. So, for our audience watching at home, can you talk to them a little bit about who you are, your background, what brought you to East Hartford, and what you've been doing kind of to date?
Yes. So I went from college, getting my bachelor's degree into insurance.
Let's rewind even further.
Where'd you grow up? Okay. So very beginning. So I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So that's where I grew up. And then around middle school, we moved to Enfield.
Okay.
So I finished out high school in Enfield. And then I went to Eastern for my bachelor's degree and Central for my master's.
Okay.
Okay. And then I didn't know quite exactly what I wanted to do with the English degree that I had. So I had a bachelor's in English, and I decided to, just try out whatever my parents suggested. So they suggested to go into insurance. So I tried it, and it wasn't for me. And
what kind of insurance?
It was property and casualty, auto and home. And I was a terrible salesman.
So you're selling insurance?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Selling insurance and customer service, stuff like that. So I liked working with people, but I just wasn't passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, and one of those things was helping people. And so I decided to go back to school and get my teaching certification. So I went to Central for that.
Okay. So you're at Central.
Yep.
And how do you end up in East Hartford?
So I'm at Central, and they set me up with my student teaching experience. And my student teaching experience was at East Hartford High School with Bonnie Feynman.
Okay.
And so as soon as I saw her teach and started meeting some of the staff, I just realized that was the place that I belonged, and that was the place I needed to be. So
it's like that really cool moment. You're in front of a group of kids, and you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be, right?
Yeah, it was like, you just feel it.
Yeah.
So as soon as I walked in and I started meeting everybody, I just knew. And I was just praying and hoping that a position would open up, and I was really very, very lucky to have a position open up and to be selected. And then,
what year was that?
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep. So, it's been great.
All right. So at East Hartford High School, you were, and I know you don't like when I talk about this stuff, but our viewers got to know.
Okay.
All right. So you were selected by the teachers at East Hartford High School. So there's, I think, just under 200 teachers at that school, and they do a pretty extensive process of nominating one of their peers to be a Teacher of the Year, and then there's a voting process, and they voted you last spring the Teacher of the Year for the high school, and that's such an honor. I used to teach in that building, as you know, and the professional opinion of people in that building is something that I certainly covet, and to see you receive that is something I must have felt really great.
It really did, and I'm still so honored and shocked by it. There are just so many people there who are so talented and dedicated and passionate about what they do that to be selected in a group like that really just meant a lot to me.
Yeah. So I remember in your in the convocation message you talked about asking kids about who was their Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
And each of them had their own Teacher of the Year, and that was your message, that you were all, and I love that idea.
Thanks.
That was really cool. But so at the high school, you teach on a 9th grade team.
Yes.
So for our parents at home who have 9th graders, they're all going, oh my gosh, and they're feeling sorry for you right now. But I don't think you feel that way.
I don't.
So tell us what you do and tell us why you do it.
So I work with 9th graders, which, like you're saying, a lot of people look at it and say, how? And in the beginning, and certainly at the beginning of every year, I think, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Just because they're going through a lot. They're changing. They're going from middle school to high school and trying to figure out who they are all at the same time, as getting used to the rigor and the time management of high school. So in the beginning, I wonder, like, how am I going to get through them, or how are we going to, mold these students into, students who can be independent and kind of handle themselves. And somehow every year with the people that I work with, they're amazing. And I have myself, English, history, math, science, and a special education teacher on my team. And because we work so well together, I think that's why we're able to have the success that we have with the freshmen.
So let's, and certainly in your team, I know has incredible success, and I know from speaking to Mr. Ryan, who's our principal, and Mr. Fody, I believe, who works with the ninth graders, yes. Your name always comes up as someone that they rely on and they look to sometimes to solve the greatest challenges, but certainly also for ideas of how we can make this thing better. So can you talk a little bit about that team structure? For families who've gone through it, they'll know what that is, but what does that mean?
So when we're on a team with other students, with other teachers rather, it really just means that we share a common cohort of students. So I have anywhere from 80 to 100 students on a team each year, and those students in the morning have all of their core academic classes. So they attend their science, math, history, and English class in a rotation, and that's all from the very first moment they walk in the building until their lunch. So they're with us for that really important time in the morning, starting the day off with them and getting them situated for their day. And then the teachers themselves meet with parents all together, so their parent doesn't have to come in and meet with the English teacher specifically or the history teacher. They're sitting down with a group of adults who all share their student.
Right.
And the adults meet many times a week to discuss better ways to help our students succeed. So I guess that's generally the structure.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like you mentioned. So kids coming from middle school, and we have, obviously we have multiple middle schools, but our comprehensive middle school is also very large, also broken down by a team structure. But I think that big gap of going to the high school, this team really kind of bridges it. It's such a pivotal time.
It is.
In our kids' lives. So let's freeze that right there because, of course, we jump right into the business, right? Yeah. And you took us through kind of your background. We went from Springfield to Enfield to Eastern Central. What about you as a person? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and,
Yeah, so I always thought of myself as more creative, free-spirited. I enjoy music outside of school. It's kind of my hobby.
I think this is an understatement right now. You're a singer in a band.
Yeah. So I don't do it as much, but
that's like the coolest thing. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah. So for a long time, I was in a band and then kind of performing sort of just at weddings and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's something that I really enjoy, but I think that lends itself to the classroom. You have to hook kids by being an entertainer in a lot of ways, so that helps me, I think.
So are you singing in the classroom?
No, I don't.
No kidding.
No, they sing all the time. The kids always sing, but not me.
It's funny. I'm super jealous of people who can sing. I really am. I'm singing in church, and my daughter's kicking me to stop. And I'm like, man. So if somebody can sing, great. I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
And now you've been at the high school since 2012. So that's.
I actually think it was earlier than that. So I've been here 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, the time goes by so quick.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. What is you're an English language arts teacher? You're teaching reading and writing. You're teaching both.
Yep.
So in the literature side of things, I was a former English teacher too.
Yep.
What's the novel that you just love to teach?
Of Mice and Men.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that one too. Why? How so?
I really like it because the kids can connect with it. It's really accessible for them, and even though it's something that took place during the Great Depression, we find a way to get to the human aspect of it. So at the end of I don't want to spoil it. Hopefully everyone's
sorry if they haven't read that. Let's spoil it.
At the end of the unit, I always have the kids do a trial and put George Milton on trial for first-degree murder. So they have to build their case, and they're assigned either defense or prosecution, and they have to have an expert witness and do research. And I dress in a judge's robe, embarrassingly, and with a gavel and everything. And I make it
Super cool.
this big experience set up my classroom. And I always like it, I think, because they do. And I have seniors come back and they'll come in and say, can I be on the jury for the trial this year? And so that's always cool to know that kids remember that moment from freshman year. So it always inspires me to love it even more.
I'd love to get invited sometime.
Yeah, you're welcome to come. You should be the judge one time.
I don't know. That's a lot of responsibility. I don't know if maybe I could be a juror.
Yeah, you just really have
Who's your favorite character? So Mice and Men
Okay.
for Our Families at Home is a great story about a farmhand, and ultimately goes through some significant troubles, and ultimately ends up killing one of the characters' wives. So I'm going to blow this now. Who's your favorite character in this story?
My favorite character is Crooks.
Crooks. I love Crooks too.
He's the stable buck.
Yes.
He's only in one chapter and it's short, but he's layered.
Yeah.
And I always really like digging into his character with the kids.
Yeah. He is, if I remember him, he was very angry. He's very bitter.
Rightly so. Rightly so.
Yeah.
Angry. So, but a great character.
Yeah.
And the kids always
I always liked
chapter.
Curly's wife.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids hate her because she is that character who's also sort of an instigator.
Yeah.
But I always try to help them to see where she's coming from in the 1930s as a woman on a farm.
Yeah.
And so that helps us to have a lot of great discussions about gender roles and the culture of the time. So.
Yeah. So I love what you're talking about right now. You're talking about a book, and you're talking about the bigger social story.
Yeah.
Right? So you're talking about gender roles. You just were talking about race issues when we were talking about Crooks.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like, how do those things play out in your class? And how do you get to talk about things like that with kids in a time where these issues are so sensitive and are so raw? How does that go in an English classroom?
So I always try to connect it to something that's going on in today's world by bringing in newspaper articles, or we'll watch a news clip on TV and we'll kind of talk about how the theme from then compares to what's going on today. And I think a big thing for me is trying not to shut down the conversation when students want to have it, and make it a safe space where kids can ask questions about things going on in the world. And talk to one another about it without coming in and trying to provide them with an opinion. It's nice to kind of hear them sort these kinds of things out for themselves. So through these novels, I try to help them to get there in those conversations.
Yeah, such an important thing, and certainly why does a work like Steinbeck's work carry on is because those same challenges, themes, feelings, we're dealing with them still today.
Right.
So fast forwarding that. Today's world, and I don't know about you, but whenever I go somewhere socially or whatever, I tell people I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I do what I do, and they're like, oh my gosh, kids today aren't what they were before.
Yeah.
And, very quickly our kids get branded for all they do is play on their phones, and they don't know how to talk to each other. And I have a weird feeling that's not how you see our kids today.
No.
So they say, what do you say when you think about when we're talking about kids of 2018?
I think that when I think back to myself as a teenager, I try to remember what I was like as a teenager a lot. It helps me because I'm trying to imagine how would I have reacted to a situation. I really don't think that kids today are any different at all than my generation. They still are going through a lot of the same struggles, trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Everyone's asking them, all the adults, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? And so knowing that that's a big struggle for them, it was a struggle for me as well. Not knowing exactly what I wanted to be, but feeling the pressure. So I think that kids, even though they're on their phones, it's the same things that we would be having a conversation about or passing notes about in our class, are the same things that kids are doing as well. I think that the social media is an additional pressure that they have that maybe we didn't when we were growing up. Social media wasn't a thing. Facebook didn't come out until I was in college. So I think that adds to sort of the feeling of being under a microscope for our kids. And as the adults, we need to be mindful of the way that impacts them.
Yeah.
But that's a pressure we didn't have to have.
Yeah.
So that would be a big difference, I think, is additional pressure, but not in a way that I would blame them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I don't think our kids are different. I think the pressures facing our kids are certainly different than when I grew up. And I'm impressed you can remember in your high school. That's becoming increasingly difficult for me, so good for you. I think I look at the pressures facing our kids, and certainly around social media. and what it means to our kids to be accepted on social media and rejected on social media, and how that doesn't end at 2:30 when you go home from school. It stays with you all night, and as your phone is buzzing, it almost like won't let you rest and won't let it rest. Do you ever talk to kids about things like that and how to navigate that? And is that a conversation?
We do, yeah. So we have a course, kind of a first-year experience course at the high school called Freshman Seminar, and we use a program called School Connect, and through that course that I teach and that all the freshman teachers have, we kind of jump into those issues about social media and the way that it impacts the kids. So we're able to talk to them about the impact that it has on them and how they are impacted in turn by the way that others use it as well. So
how do the kids respond to that?
Some of them will say that they don't think that they use it too much. Other kids will very quickly acknowledge that it's a negative aspect of their day. And others love it and celebrate it and think that it's a great tool.
Yeah.
So it really varies. Not all kids will respond the same way, but we have the conversation for sure.
So I was a school administrator I've been a school administrator for over a decade, working with kids in that environment. I remember when the cell phone thing really emerged, and initially we made a very concerted effort to stop it. So if a kid had a cell phone, we took a cell phone away, and they would get it at the end of the day, et cetera. And I feel like our strategy, our thoughts towards that are changing because we're realizing that's not reality. Right. Reality is learning how to use those devices in the day. So I'm so glad to hear that, and that the high school, and this is one thing that just blows me away about the high school, is how focused we are on the content and the reading and the writing and the math and the jumps we've seen there regarding SAT and college graduation, high school graduation. But at the same time, equally as focused and sometimes understated is our teachers and administration's efforts around kids as a human, and decision making and positive relationships. Do you feel that way? I mean, I feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it change sort of even since I started. We're definitely moving more towards helping to build kids' understanding of how emotions impact them. A lot of them don't even know or think about how to regulate their emotions, but that's something that we focus on at the high school. And we're building more and more of our curriculum around social emotional learning because it's part of being an adult, and we need to build them into that, the kind of person who can go to work and have a disagreement without being disagreeable and without being aggressive. So those are things that we practice with them. We've definitely moved more towards that since I started teaching, for sure. And I think it's for me, it's a welcome change because I think it's important to teach the whole student. Yeah.
It's funny. So I don't work in a school anymore. I work in a central office, which is much more like a business environment, I guess, and I miss kids like crazy. But sometimes many of the adults that I work with, I wish they had a little more opportunity to have this, because talk about emotional management and handling failure. This isn't just for kids, So I'm really hopeful about that. And excited about where that can bring us. Watching our show are parents, masses. This is one of the. So, and some of them may have 9th graders, some of them have 10th graders. And I'm really hoping that some of them are fortunate enough to have you as a teacher, but some of them don't. What would you say to a parent who's going through a tough time? My 9th grader is not engaging in school. My 9th grader is maybe not doing the work there. Or maybe my 9th grader has an attendance issue. What could you say to our parents who are watching, or grandparents watching tonight or today that could help them?
I would say that to stay hopeful, because they always figure it out, and that every kid is on a different clock in a way. So I'll see a student freshman year and wonder, oh man, how are we ever going to help you get it together? And then by sophomore year, you start to see that change. So all kids develop at different times with their maturity, and so it'll happen. And so it's really, really hard as the adult to sit back and watch them fail or watch them struggle through things without wanting to just jump in and fix everything. But I think that's part of the growth, is helping them to overcome those obstacles. But they'll always figure it out. It's just a matter of time. So all we have to do is be their support system on the way.
That's really good advice. I'm actually thinking about this right now. I have, you know this, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and last night I think I was giving her a lecture on married life. And I'm not sure why, because I feel I'm always like, we have to get this right now. Yeah. And she looked at me, she says, Dad, I'm not going to get married. Yeah. But like I do wish sometimes I could just realize that, my now is not their now. Yeah. And it's really hard as a parent because you don't want to see them get hurt. It's
hard as a teacher, too, to sit there and watch a kid who has so much potential and who could be earning A's, and you know how easy their life would be, if they could just, get those A's now and then get scholarships and, get into college and all of these things. But it's hard to sit back and watch that happen when you care so much and you really want to help them. But I can't say enough that kids, they figure it out, and sometimes it just takes time. And as long as we're always their cheerleader, telling them that they can, then I think they'll make it. Yeah.
So another thing I always think is really interesting, and this is, I don't know how this will play with the question I just asked you, but we do see trends and patterns in highly successful kids. Mm-hmm. And we do notice, so first of all, we believe every kid is different. Every kid has their own path, and we support that 100%. But if you had to say 2 or 3 things kids could do that would kind of put them in the edge of success, that you would say to parents, hey, these are great things to kind of talk about a little bit, what would those 2 or 3 things be? I'm a huge list guy. It doesn't have to be 3. I seem obsessed with 3. But
you're looking for things that make a student successful or good habits?
Yeah, habits, trends, patterns you see in really successful kids.
Time management is a really big one. I work with freshmen, so that's a struggle for a lot of them. For a lot of them, it's a struggle. I would say figuring out how to manage time early and setting time aside for, and maybe a parent could help with this, setting time aside every day for academics after school would be the best time. Highly successful students know how to advocate for themselves. Mm. So when they're struggling in class, they'll go to the teacher, stay after school, do everything that they need to do in order to overcome the problem that they're having. I'd say highly successful students have grit, and they are willing to...
so what is grit? I know we talk about that all the time.
So being able to persevere, and even when something's really hard.
Even when you fail.
And even when you fail. Yeah. So we talk about... I actually talked with my freshman seminar this week. One of the lessons was all about grit and perseverance, and one of the questions that started the class was, is failure a good thing or a bad thing? So the kids sort of debated it. Is failure good or bad? And the overwhelming majority, and I was really proud of them, the overwhelming majority of students said that they think failure is good, and it's a good thing. Right? Good thing for people because you'll never learn from your mistakes if you aren't making any, or if you're just perfect all the time. I think that highly successful students have grit and perseverance.
Yeah, that's really cool. I got an opportunity last night. I went and spoke to a group of students, prospective teacher candidates at the University of Connecticut. And I was there talking to them about being a teacher and working in the education field. And they had lots of questions for me about all kinds of things, from the interview process to like, how does the first year go? But one of the things that became really clear is that these kids, these are really high-performing kids, all wanted to get it perfect. Mm-hmm. And I felt like my biggest message to them was it's not going to be perfect, mm-hmm. and how you handle that is really going to define what success is for you. Mm-hmm. And it's funny when you say that. It really makes me realize that, do we as a system do a good enough job talking about failure? And we almost want to run away from failure. Yeah.
But we need to make it a growing experience. Yeah. So when they aren't scared to ask you questions, because if a kid is afraid to fail, then they'll be afraid to let you know when they're struggling. Yeah. And then they'll never learn. Yeah.
All right, so we got to land the plane here. We got to bring this thing back. So and there's so many other things I wanted to ask you, and I've really enjoyed listening to you. And Mary, when I think about people like you, I get so excited because 5 periods a day, 20-something kids are sitting with you, mm-hmm. working with you. And we know there's nothing more impactful in a kid's life, other than obviously their parents, of a powerful teacher. And you're certainly that. So thank you for that. So here we go. Here come the splash questions here. Okay. So I'm in a favorites mood today. Okay. So let's jump to favorites. So let's jump to favorite movie.
It depends on what genre, because I have a favorite in every genre.
Okay, all right, we'll mix that. A favorite action movie.
Die Hard.
All right. All right, favorite drama.
Pride and Prejudice.
Wow. Favorite comedy.
The Burbs. It's an old one with Tom Hanks.
I'll have to check that out. I don't know that one. Let's jump to music. Favorite band. You're going to tell me genre again?
I'd say Radiohead.
Radiohead.
Would have to be right now, yeah.
All right, so we're going old school.
Or Bright Eyes.
All right, okay. Yeah. How about favorite fast food?
I don't really like fast food, but I would say...
All right, let's change it.
Okay.
Favorite food?
Potatoes in any form.
Potatoes in any form?
I know, I'm Irish, I don't know.
So what about French fries?
Yeah.
So French fries are fast food, though, right?
Sometimes.
Okay, all right, so under debate there. How about favorite thing to do outside of teaching kids and making the next Hornet community be amazing? What else is a favorite thing for you?
I already said music, so that's a big one for me. Hanging out with my husband is really fun.
Yeah.
So that, hiking. I like hiking.
Mm-hmm. Where do you like to hike?
When we go hiking, we usually do like Case Mountain or different mountains around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite kind of animal? Are you a pet person?
Yeah. I like dogs.
You're a dog person,
yeah.
Not a cat person.
No, sorry, cat lovers.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, right?
Yeah.
So, well, hey, listen, that's those are certainly some great things.
Well, what are your favorites?
What are my favorites? Favorite what?
Movie, action movie.
Favorite action movie.
Don't steal mine.
I can't, but that's just hard to walk away from. I think I'm gonna have to go favorite action movie. I'm gonna have to probably go Mission Impossible.
Okay, good. The first one.
What's that?
The first one.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah. Clearly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Drama.
So drama is that's my favorite genre too.
Oh, okay.
I would say if I was going to go with my favorite drama movie, it's going to be embarrassing if I say Titanic right now. I was listening to someone talk about Titanic today. You know, I love Legends of the Fall.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely love that movie.
Okay.
I'm a big Brad Pitt fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must be a Brad Pitt fan.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and let's go to comedy.
Comedy. Billy Madison.
Oh, good one. Okay, Adam Sandler. And then favorite band.
Favorite band. So that changes. That changes over time. Mm-hmm. I think I would probably. I like a lot of classic rock. I listen to just about every genre. I've recently got into more kind of like folky kind of music. Mm-hmm. I'm really into the Zac Brown band.
Oh, okay.
So I'd probably go there.
Okay, cool. Great.
So, hey, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
We appreciate it. Thanks for all you do for our kids.
Thank you.
That's it from the Classroom. Really appreciate you tuning in and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great one.